Hello again. We're live. We are at ABN Army Surplus. This is the Polite Society podcast. We're recording the prepper segment here for episode 296. This will come out on the podcast on the 27th or 28th, whenever that particular podcast releases. But we're recording the prepper segment right now. We are at ABN Army Surplus, and Gary and I are going to be handling that. We, as we usually do when we record these, we're going to go ahead and record Gary's ABN live ad that airs on episode 295 and 296. We're going to record that one first, then we'll get into the prepper segment. So that's what you're going to be hearing. Are we ready to knock out the live promo, Gary?
As soon as I swallow that bite to eat, your wife was polite enough to bring me.
Oh, I needed that too.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, here we go.
Thank you again, Sue.
Hey, and we're back at ABN Army Surplus, recording as we do every Sunday here at ABN. Gary, I say every Sunday, every week, but it's been a couple, 3 weeks since we've been here.
It has been, yeah.
What's been going on with the store, man?
Well, you always have the Christmas holidays, which always brings in a whole different thing. I think the big change we're seeing here over the last couple of years that we're seeing this Christmas season we didn't see before, which is exciting for us as a store, is customers who had never been here before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the word is starting to get out. And we're having people come up from Nebraska to do some Christmas shopping with us, down from North Dakota to do some Christmas shopping with us. Outskirts, up into Minnesota coming, Iowa coming. So the idea that what we're carrying in the store as far as prepper supplies, good example is we had somebody in on Monday and bought me all out of the Wise food again. So I got to put another order in for that. But just in general, we're also starting to see a lot of families. For a long time, the store was kind of considered to be sort of just a men's store. We're now starting to see a lot of families, a lot of young kids, a lot of women shopping on their own for themselves. Everything from original SWAT boots that they just like wearing the boots, and to field jackets. Of course, we've got a lot of high-end stuff now, a lot of true spec pants and true spec jackets, that kind of stuff. So it's been exciting to see new families come in that have never been here before. The kids love it because it's the kind of store where they can wander around and touch stuff and knock stuff over and not have to worry about breaking anything like in other stores. So kids have a lot of fun, and it's been an exciting Christmas season for us. It's gone real well. The two new guys, Kurt and Chris, have been just outstanding. So Merry Christmas to everybody. As far as product and sales go, we just got a lot of stuff. So if you're local, come on in. And I'll leave that our little ABN advertising the segment here with this thought. We are literally almost done with what's been a year project, the website. And we are very, very, very close. And as of yesterday, we had 30,000 products up there.
Wow.
Now, we still have a lot of linking to do, and a lot of meta tag type stuff, and that kind of thing. But I'm shooting for before SHOT Show, which, as you and I both know, for me, it's the 15th of January that I've got to actually be out in Vegas because I've got two shows I do back to back. But so mid-January at the very latest, maybe even as early as the new year, we will be kicking off our website. So we would like folks to remember abnarmysurplus.com. If you go up there now, it kind of looks like crap. Now, this is coming out on the 27th and 28th.
Actually, the advertisement part is coming out tonight.
Oh, tonight. Okay.
This is going to be on 3 different podcasts, 94, 95, and 96.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, folks, you can give us a call or send us an email, gary@abntactical.com, for the last minute Christmas gift type stuff. And I've got plenty of those. If you can think about it, call me. I might have it. And then look for it around the weekend of the 27th, 28th, close to the first of the year. Take a look and see what ABN Army Surplus preppers.com looks like, because we could be that early. We could be that early. We're keeping our fingers crossed. A lot of work, a lot of time. We hope folks will appreciate it.
Very cool. That it's a little over. When I do my magic surgery on it, it'll come out to just over 3, maybe 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to cut out my little intersection where, actually, because I didn't tell you, it will. We haven't done a live ad for a while, so it'll come out onto the show that I released tonight.
Okay.
So it'll actually be on 3 shows this week, the midweek, and the one we release next Sunday morning.
Wonderful.
Okay, and prepper segment. Just 1 second here.
Yeah, can you read that email, that one particular one that you read me before back, so I can set my mind to make sure I answer that gentleman's question.
Yeah, just a second here.
And those of you that'll see it on YouTube, sorry, but it's been a long day for all of us, and we are eating in these break periods here.
Okay, the post that went up was this: we need a topic for the prepping segment that we will be recording at ABN this afternoon. Any suggestions? What we got was, there are 4 of them, and one of them is very long. But Jason Kavanaugh says if you could have only 1 gun for prepping, 3 guns, and 5 guns for prepping. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I got an answer for that real well.
I got my own answers for that too.
Sure.
So we can talk about that. This one I think is intriguing. We may have to get a guest in on, but the next one is knowing what food is close by: blackberries, apple trees, local ponds, etc. And I think we might want to get a guest in and do a full segment on that. What do you think?
I think so. Yep. There's a lot available, a lot of information available. So I've got a couple guests in mind we might be able to do that with too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll set that one aside.
Yeah. Put that one as a big segment of its own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the one I would like, Chris Gillespie mentioned, other than flashlight lighting options.
Okay.
So,
and we're set up to do that today.
Yeah, I think we'll, but I do want to get into flashlights as well, maybe.
Okay.
So, but we'll do other than flashlight to begin with, and expand it out.
Okay.
Into flashlights. So, and then Jeff Halsey, who is one of our listeners, one of our most active listeners, as far as keeping in touch with us, he says several come to mind, like operational security, what not to tell the neighbors. Or, seriously, you stockpiled that? Do you even eat that? But one that really stands out is, and I love this, prepping for reality. Stick to the disasters that don't involve aliens or earth-destroying cataclysms. Seriously, there are tons of real-world disasters that people should prepare for and hedge against. Power outages, infectious diseases, flu being the least among them, job loss, etc. There's really no need to prepare for alien invasions, global nuclear war, massive crust upheavals, super volcanoes, or any other cataclysmic events, because in a disaster, you might have a chance if you're A, lucky, and B, prepared. In a disaster, okay, he says in a disaster you might have a chance if you're lucky and prepared. In a cataclysm, you just need to be really, really, really lucky.
Now, who is that?
Jeff Halsey.
Jeff Halsey. Because Jeff, if you've been listening to our program a lot, first and foremost, you'll know that we probably repeated this a dozen times. If we repeated it, what's one of those 100 if I'd done it once. Preparation is exactly as you're speaking about. You do not prepare for the zombie apocalypse. Now, there are people who do, but truly, you don't need a $500,000 underground bunker to survive the nuclear blast. There are some situations where you simply, when I'm teaching class, I simply say, if this situation happens, kiss your royal butt goodbye, because you're not going to survive it one way or another.
Before we get too deep into this, we're not recording yet. Not for the show. So I was just going over what we could talk about.
Okay.
So,
well, then we'll do, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I would say put that whole food segment off the berry stuff. We'll do a whole new segment on that, but we can cover the which weapons are good prepping.
Yep.
And then we can answer Jeff's basic question about the differences for how you prep for reality, and then we can do the lights and alternatives.
I'm going to keep my eye coming over here. When we get close to 15 minutes,
okay,
I'll probably throw it a break, and then we'll come back and we'll just do 2 segments because this feels like more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, all right, here we go. Hey, and welcome back. This is the prepping segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording here again at ABN Army Surplus. Gary's with me, and we haven't been able to set up here and do anything at ABN for a few weeks, so we're going to make up for that a little bit today. We posted up to Facebook, said we wanted some questions about prepping, and boy, did we get some good ones.
Gary, we did.
We want to we got some questions out. We're going to tackle the first one we're going to talk about is we put up basically a post that said, what do you want to talk about for prepping? And Jeff Holsey said basically several come to mind, like operational security, what not to tell the neighbors, and basically let's tee off on that one to start with. I myself, to my direct neighbors around me, we have a little bit of contact, but I don't let them know really how much I do prep. We know them enough to be social. We know them enough to know that if we're going to be taking off for the weekend, we tell them, hey, would you please kind of keep an eye on the house? But we don't, this is kind of embarrassing to say, we don't have neighbors that come in ever since one group of neighbors moved away. We don't have a lot of neighbors that we can invite over and come in the house for coffee.
Well, that's a good point. I think that's the way most people are in today's day and age. I don't know any of my local neighbors, or all the friends I have in Sioux Falls. The guys next door to me are the wave as you see them in the summertime getting in and out of their car kind of people.
Right.
But even taking just the fact that you don't know them very well, those that you do know well still don't need to know that end of your personal business. When it comes to serious prepping, I will tell you, it's because I have the opportunity to work with a ton of preppers. And we also talk with a lot of people who aren't necessarily preppers, but understand the prepping community. You would be surprised, I think, at how many, literally by the numbers of folks who their idea is, if the shit hits the fan, they're going to take out their neighbor and take what their neighbor's got. There literally are people whose disaster plan is, I know where the sources are being kept by the people who got them, and my plan is to go take it from them.
And yeah, I believe that very much. And the fallacy in that is what I think of the people, and I can think of one in particular, and I've actually seen them in here once, but that have that kind of mentality. The flaw in that thinking is most preppers are pretty good with firearms.
That's right. Exactly. That's one of the many situations that go along with that. There's also a presumption, I think, that that you live where you live, for example,
right?
That all your prepping is going on there, and you and I both know it ain't.
Right.
The same with my prepping is not going on here. It's not going on at my house.
Right.
It's going on someplace where even my very, very best of friends don't know where it is.
Right.
And as much as I love them, I'm not sharing that kind of a situation with them. It's just none of their business how much I've got or where I've got it or what I've got covered. Keep it to yourself is really the best advice I can give.
Your immediate family and yourself.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yep.
Now, Jeff did also say he wanted us to talk a little bit about prepping for reality. He writes, stick to the disasters that don't involve aliens or earth-destroying cataclysms. He says, seriously, there are a ton of real-world disasters that people should prepare for and hedge against. Power outages, infectious diseases, etc. There's really no need or sense of preparing for alien invasions, global nuclear war, massive crust upheavals, supervolcanoes, or any other cataclysmic events. I guess what I'd like to say to start the reply to that one is bingo, the zombie apocalypse is not coming. However, by starting to prepare for electric outages, job losses, floods, that type of thing, when you start preparing for that, the more prepared you are there, then the bigger stuff is easier.
Yeah, I agree. And if he's been listening to our program, we've pretty much gone over and over and over this, that you do not prepare for the zombie apocalypse. Because quite honestly, most people don't, number one, have the money to build a $500,000 bunker underground like you see in the disaster prepper shows.
Right.
And number two, the likelihood that any of us are going to survive a giant meteor crashing into Earth are pretty much slim and none. When you look at something like that, you say, well, maybe if you're lucky, you might survive it. But the truth of the matter is this is probably going to take out most of the population, if not all the population on Earth anyway, regardless of how prepped you are. You do need to be prepared, I think, for, as an example, because we're often in politics a lot, the possibility of a fractured United States by something such as an EMP that comes along with an economic collapse. You've got to be able to take care of your family for a short period of time until the country comes back up again. Let's say it's 60, 90, or 180 days, where the transportation systems have gone down, as well as the tornado and the hurricane and that. I think that most preppers understand that having a supply of everything you would need to take care of whatever your immediate group size is for 180 days is reasonable. 60 days, maybe a little short, because 60 days is going to be fine if all you're dealing with is a natural disaster, or a hurricane, a flood, a wildfire, something like that. But if there is something in local news recently with the North Korea thing on the movie, with Sony Pictures.
Right.
I mean, there's so many instances where we look at some kind of a threat that could take down the resources that we depend on every day. The basic water supply, the basic sewer system, the basic ability to walk into a house and flick a light switch. As Americans, we have gotten so used to that just being instant that we don't think about it. Prepping is the idea of prepping for the lapse of that resource. It's about the electricity isn't there, the sewer isn't there, the water isn't there. Now, it may only be like the ice storm a year ago here in Sioux Falls, where you're 10 days without those resources. It could be a tornado like Joplin, Missouri, or Birmingham, Alabama, where I was down with FEMA for those. We were talking about anywhere from a week to 30 days. The bigger hurricanes being even longer than that, where you could be stranded without those resources. But the big issue is, in today's day and age, do you want to bet against the fact that the government systems and all of those utilities you're accustomed to will continue to operate without stop? That's the thing.
Right. Right. So, and I guess, Jeff, you're right. Prep for the small stuff. Prep for, and try to go, I mean, figure electricity, figure, start in one small area. Would I be able to make it if the electricity went out for a week?
That's a good way to start.
Right. And then, well, once you got that handled, okay, well, what if this happened, or what if that happened? Start small, pick one goal, and then expand out from there.
Right. And so many of us understand, particularly if you're living in a small town or rural town, it used to be commonplace. You grew up on a farm or a ranch, and mom, by the time winter rolled around, besides the deer and the pheasant that had been tucked away into the freezer, mom had canned everything that could possibly be cannable and had an entire winter supply there. That's not the case in today's day and age, but you most certainly can start with the idea a week first, then two. Put together a combination of different, we talked about this before, a combination of different foods that'll get you, going to 30 and 45 and 60 days. You start with that understanding. And honestly, anybody who tries to teach you that what you need to do is prepare for a zombie type apocalypse is just looking to get your money.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah. it hasn't been all that long ago, and especially up here there are farmers in the upper Great Plains, the northern Great Plains. Electricity only showed up here in the country. Farmers lived off grid until the 1940s, sometimes 1950s.
Sure. And
so we're looking at 60 to 70 years ago. Living off grid was the norm.
Yeah, particularly in rural, like say North, South Dakota, Montana. I mean, it was a long time. The cities were getting electricity, but I mean, literally into the 60s, there were huge counties of areas in the upper Midwest here that did not yet have electricity. That's correct. And those people took good care of themselves.
Sure.
And if you live inner city, I've got apartment preppers, people who understand that you don't have to be rural. You don't need to know how to hunt or fish. There's a lot of ways different people can prepare. There's two mistakes I see that happen on a regular basis for people who read all those survival blogs and go to all those prepper websites and the rest of that kind of stuff, is they presume that if it's for sale, they need it. So that's number one. That is not true. And if the advice is coming from somebody who is a retailer, double check it, because somebody who's a retailer is probably looking to make a profit for the most part. You and I have known each other a long time.
Yeah.
So we know that when I teach my classes, the first thing out of my mouth is, you don't have to buy it here, but you've seen my checklist.
Right.
It's got a whole bunch of stuff on there that we don't even carry. So I want people to think about what it is that they need to have, regardless of the size of their group or the size of their house for storage, and then go after that regardless of where it's coming from. So,
yeah. And I got to say, my wonderful wife does not suffer from this, but it was very popular to say a while back, look at how much money I saved for this on sale. Well, if it's on sale and you save so much money, why didn't you have it to start with? You're buying stuff they really don't need, but I saved so much money, on it. And same can be true in prepping. If you don't really need it, but you get a good deal on it, was it really a deal?
That's exactly right. Exactly. And I don't know how many preppers I know that, and you and I both, because we're gun guys, who own how many different kinds of guns? I mean, sadly. Sorry about that. I had to turn that off.
Well, let's take that just a second, because one of the other Jason Kavanaugh asked when we put that up, that leads directly into, he'd asked if you could only have one gun for prepping, and then he says if you could only have 3 guns, or if you could only have 5. Let's explore that. How many guns does a prepper need? And now let's just say, I'm going to say from my personal point of view, a prepper, you are not really a prepper if you don't include safety in your prepping, and firearms are part of safety.
I agree. And interesting, because we're talking about need.
Right.
Now, there's a big difference between need and want. And I think that the thing that I find interesting about what I'll call seriously super preppers, and I know more than my share of them, wonderful guys who think that the Armageddon that's coming is going to require them to have to mount a military style defense. So they're talking about groups of 20 and 50,000 rounds of ammunition and 22 guns apiece and that kind of thing. But when you talk about need for security and prepping as far as what you're going to do in the long term, a fishing pole is just as useful and just as needed as, example, a shotgun. Now, you're not going to use the fishing pole to defend yourself, but if you got 22 guns and no fishing pole, maybe you went a little bit too far. Now, you've got a comment. I'm going to let you make your comment, and then I'm going to answer the question of what I think need for is.
I'm going to say the shotgun is 10 times more important than the fishing pole.
I agree. But
I think you need to have both.
yeah, but not 10 times more important than the third AR-15 and AK-47 you've got in your closet.
Oh, yeah, well, it depends. Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's get to the first part of the question. One gun. If you're starting your preps, you could have only one gun. So let's just make that the start of your preps. You're new to firearms. You're new to prepping. You're going to pick up your first firearm.
Shotgun, hands down.
I'm going to kind of agree with that.
Yep. Most universal weapon you can find, because you're going to be able to hunt with it. You're going to be able to defend yourself with it. And the rounds are easy enough. It's easy enough to learn. Like you said, if this is the first gun you're picking up.
Right.
Ammunition is reasonably inexpensive, so you can get some time out there shooting with it. So if I picked just one, I would go with my shotgun.
And what I'm going to say that I'm going to agree with that to start with. But what I'm going to say is, seriously, if you're getting new into firearms, you're starting to prep, if you're going to pick up a shotgun and base your security on that shotgun, everybody says 12 gauge, but take a look at 20 gauge. It's a lot less recoil. It's nearly as effective for I mean, I don't know that I'd use a 20 gauge to defend myself against a grizzly bear. I think I'd want the 12.
Yeah.
But for almost anything else, the 20 will do just about as good a job as a 12.
Sure. And the other thing is, if you're just starting prepping, you know, an 870, inexpensive.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're not talking about having to have a complicated knowledge, and you're not talking about having to have a lot of money to put that first defensive weapon and, you know, also the ability to, for game, into your prepper selection. That's the reason I like to go with a shotgun if you only have one to choose from.
Although I will say, just for personal preference, I like the Mossberg 500.
Yeah.
Because of the way the safety is right in your visual, and the safety rests right up on top, where your thumb activates, and you can see it looking down the barrel. I love the Mossberg for that, but that's just a personal preference.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, if you want to pick up a Remington 870, I'm not gonna. It's a great gun too.
Well, for the money.
Yeah,
that's the nice thing about it.
And both of them are about the same price. Yeah. So either way, you're not gonna go wrong.
The next one was then if you had three.
Yeah. For three, I'm gonna say, well, just going back to there, you're gonna want, if you can only have three, I'd say number one, of course, shotgun. Number two is a 22 caliber rimfire.
Gotcha. Agree with that, hands down.
Right. And number three is a handgun.
I agree with that. Yep. Those are the three.
And the reason I don't include the AR or a larger caliber center fire rifle in there is because we go back to security. You can hunt with that shotgun.
Correct.
And so you can use a sable round. You can use, you can do the hunting with the shotgun and get the game. You can, the 22 rimfire is for smaller game, and by the way, the smaller game is going to be a whole lot easier to come by,
absolutely,
than the larger game is, and you're going to be able to. Okay, the electricity grid just went down. You took down a deer. How long is that meat going to be good for if you don't know how to treat it?
That's exactly right. Yep. There's a lot of skills that go into prepping that most people don't think about. It's not just buying an extra box of canned goods.
Yeah. So, I mean, you take out a rabbit that can feed two people one meal. No big deal at all. You're not going to be wasting the meat. Handgun, you can, if you need to, hunt with a handgun, but it's much better for the personal defense and security around the house.
I agree.
And then if you were to add any beyond that, then I would go to the next one would be for prepping for me. If you were going to add one more from the three, go to the fourth. That where I would put the lever action 30 caliber, it could be 308, 30-06, something, a 30-30,
Yep. Yep. Mine's bolt action 30-06. That's my preference.
Yeah. Bolt action, lever action.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Either way. And then finally for the fifth one, I would add the AR type. Personally, I would go with an AR-10 and 308 rather than the 223. You can reach out a little bit more with those. They're a little heavier, but they're more battle ready. That's just personal taste on my part.
Well, you and I flat agree on if you got one choose, you got three choose, and I think there was five, and I would agree exactly in that succession. You know, first you go with the shotgun, second you go with the 22, third you go with the handgun, fourth you go with the long rifle, fifth you go with the assault defensive offensive weapon. Whichever your personal choices are. I know some guys that absolutely swear by AKs and some other guys that swear by ARs, and you can't argue either side of them. I've seen guys put $5,000 into an AK-47 because they wanted to. Cool. But you can get a perfectly functional AK-47 for 600. So,
yeah, I was just going to say that 600, 6,000. Yeah, I know which end I'm going on.
So, but those five, and however you put it together. And the other thing that I think I want to make comment on, and I'm guessing that you're going to agree with this with me too. If you're prepping and you're going with that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to it, and you've got a wife or you've got growing children that are going to be in your group, and you're just starting out, consider doing that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the same, because what gets to be difficult to prep for, as an example, if everybody's got a 22 rimfire rifle, you need 22s. Good. But if you've got 5 different pistols for each of those 5 people, that starts to become 5 different kinds of ammunition, both stockpiling as well as how familiar they are with it.
I'm going to agree on caliber. I'm going to agree. I'm going to say if well, we'll just use my Susan and me here. I carry a 40. Guess what? Susan carries a 40, but it's a different 40.
Oh yeah, I got no problem with that.
Because each person's physical. I mean,
right.
Susan could not. Her hands are not big enough to handle my 40 caliber effectively.
Yep.
She can use it. She's damn good with it,
yep.
but she uses a different one because it fits her hand better, and she's better for it. But we both carry 40s.
Yep. Our family, same thing. We all carry 40s. They're different 40s from different manufacturers and different sizes.
Yep.
But we all carry 40s. So the only pistol round I have to keep for my prepper supplies is 1 round.
Right.
Now we have backup pistols too, but that's just because, like you, we're kind of a little bit collector. So we got the 22 pistol, the 308, but the one that we would have out of those 5 would always be to carry the 40.
Well, let's do this because we're late on break. We're going to go ahead and step aside to break. We'll do one more segment, and we'll do that because we got more questions coming up right after this.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're almost 22 minutes into that for a 15-minute segment.
That went well, though.
Yeah. All right. And then we'll knock this. I think what we're going to do is I'm going to split this up.
Okay.
And we'll do one segment on one episode and one segment so we don't overload them all on one episode. Okay. Hey, and welcome back. This is our second prepper segment here at ABN Army Surplus. Gary and I here, we've been talking about we posted a post to Facebook. We got a lot of great feedback, and we're going through that. And so far we've talked about what type of prepping you should start with, and then of course the what firearms would be good for prepping, and we kind of covered that a little bit. What I want to talk about next is, and there's a lot of good options on this. Chris Gillespie, when he commented, he said he wanted to hear about other than flashlight lighting options. Now I'm assuming he's talking power's gone.
Right.
What do you have for light? What should a prepper have for lighting beyond what is a flashlight? Now, I'm going to say, first of all, the cheapest, in my opinion, and we got a ton of them, the cheapest, T-candles.
Absolutely. And in fact, quite honestly, better than flashlights or any other light source, I'd say, again, if we did that, I got to have one thing in my prepper kit.
Right.
I'd have candles before flashlights. Regardless of the kind of flashlight or the expense of it, I'd have a ton of candles.
Now, the reason I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, the reason I'm thinking is candles, especially like about now, wintertime, up here in the Northern Plains, they do 2 things. They give off light, they give off heat.
Give off a little bit of heat, too. Yeah, when you're talking about alternative light sources, and like you said, we're going to talk a little bit about flashlights and alternative light sources to the flashlights. But flashlights are basically coming when you get them in 3 different segments. You're going to get those that are going to run on batteries.
Right.
You're going to get those that are going to be rechargeable. And then like some of the flashlights that are made for preppers today, you're going to get some that are going to run on crank, or they're going to run on solar power, or they're going to run on something like that. All good choices depending upon which way you want to go. But alternatively to that, candles are the main thing. And you've got candle sources, and then you've got the electric sources as well. I've got a couple of them out here for our YouTube viewers, but this is a battery powered lantern. Because of the LED structure of that, and the folks start looking around, you can find some pretty nice LED lantern style lights that draw so little battery juice that they really, really run a long, long time. So that's an alternative to that. And you've got kerosene lanterns as an alternative to it. You've got the solar powered and the hand crank as alternatives to regular standard flashlights. So right there's 4 or 5 different kinds. Our household has all of them. Some folks remember our age may remember the term hurricane lantern. Okay. My wife and I have got a couple of those in our prepper packs. We've got a couple of this the battery operated low energy lights that run with LEDs. We have, like you and I, beginning of it, candles in every shape, form, and fashion. This one here is 120-hour burn time prepper candle. I mean, that's phenomenal. And then you've got right to the little candle lanterns, that take the 9-hour emergency candles. If you have, let's say, a 2-bedroom, a regular little 2-bedroom house, 800 square foot, and you have 4 of these little candle lanterns in there, and you get yourself a case of those 9-hour burn candles that'll go in there. If you had no flashlights, no other light source at all but those 4, you could make it 30 days, 60 days. You bought enough of those 9-hour candles, because you're not going to burn them 24/7.
Right.
But in the evenings when you want, like you say, you're going to get a little bit of heat out of them. You're going to get plenty of light. 4 9-hour burn candles and a little candle lantern like that. And you're going to be, as far as prepping is concerned, well ahead of the ballgame.
Now, I want to say this because, and my wife would slap me if I didn't, never, ever, 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 ever go to sleep with a lit candle.
100% agreed. Yep. One of the more dangerous things that you could possibly do. The resource for candles, too, that I like is that they're fairly inexpensive.
Yeah. I
mean, you can buy cases of the tea lights for $10.
Yeah, we picked up a huge box. There was a couple hundred of them. But it's been years. That was one of the first preps we got when we started thinking about prepping was getting a lot of tea light candles.
Yep.
And I think it was like, for a bag of 100, it was like $1.50 at the time. But this has been quite a while ago.
Well, they're still pretty cheap. We talked about this before too. If I was going to tell somebody what's the number one first thing you need when you start prepping, to me, it's always a good emergency radio. That's always the number one on my list when you start prepping. And most of the good ones now, like the Voyager line emergency radios, are going to come with a pretty good sized, pretty light LED flashlight attached to that. So I would most certainly go with that as the first thing, because they're going to work both hand crank, they're going to work solar powered. And honestly, if you've got one of those out picking up sunlight during the day, even on a cloudy day, you're going to get a tremendous amount of light resource out of it as the evening goes along as well. So,
yeah, and like you were talking about earlier, LED just sips the power.
Just sips it. Yep.
As well as, to run a radio doesn't, as long as you're not trying to make sure the neighborhood hears you.
Right.
If you're in a normal household volume, you can get, I want to say, because we had a issue when we were out of power here a couple years ago, and we had a little radio with that ran off of double A's, not even C cells, just regular double A's. And I want to say we got like 3 straight days on one set of batteries, just running radio at normal household volume.
Yep. And these nice ones, like the little Voyager one that we carry for about $100.
Mm-hmm.
The hand crank on it is so good that you crank it for about a minute and a half, and you've got the radio for over an hour.
Oh, sure.
And solar power, the little solar power panel on it will even pick up light like fluorescent light. So one of those is the first thing to put in there. That would be a good alternative to the standard battery operated flashlight. Other than that, we got some light sticks are a good idea. We got one of those here. You know, there's a buck. You know, if you came in and you said, Gary, give me a case of those, it'd be less than a buck for them. Wonderful, 12 hours of good light. I mean, and these things will light up a pretty sizable room once you break one of those fluorescents open.
Right.
So that's another alternative to a flashlight I would definitely have in my prepper pack.
I would keep those in your vehicles, and maybe a few around the house. The only thing I don't like about those is they're absolutely one-time use.
Yeah,
you can't use them a little bit and then a little bit later. Once you light that thing off, it's going to go till it's done.
It goes 10, 12 hours, and there's nothing you can do about it. So,
right.
Yep.
And then it's just junk. But now the other thing about those that is really cool is, well, I can't speak to all of them, but I know 99% of them, you can hold the things under. The water will not affect them. They're sealed.
Correct.
They're going to go. I don't remember where it was, but somebody threw a pool party and thought it was really cool because they got a bunch of different colored ones and they threw them all in the pool.
Yeah.
And so I just glad it wasn't the one that had to clean up after it.
Well, the divers use them for many diving applications. So theirs are characteristically a step up from what you would get in your normal retail store. Because of the depth that's going to affect them. But yeah, light sticks, it don't cost you anything to have a dozen of them around. You got 3 or 4 in the back of your car, in the back of your wife's car, another half a dozen in the kitchen just in case you need them. So. Yeah. Generally, we don't carry those novelty items too much. What I call state fair items, the light stick that goes around the kids' neck,
right?
Which I've always thought is a great idea if you've got little kids and you're at the state fairgrounds kind of thing. But with our prepper supplies, we generally just carry the light sticks, but we carry a little bit higher end of one in the sense that, like, we carry the 3 packs that are going to have different colors in case. If you and I are prepping together and we're having a defensive position or somewhere, we might want to put one color one place and one color another. Now we're getting into really detailed prepping, but light sticks are most certainly a good resource.
Well, let's go ahead. Now, I think we've covered pretty well the other than flashlight lighting. Let's go ahead and I want to go into flashlights a little bit because flashlights aren't, what they were even 5 years ago, certainly aren't what they were 15 years ago.
Yep. Well, it's one of the things, too, that we sell a ton of in the store because we're taking care of the sheriff's department. We're taking care of police departments. We're taking care of security as well as the preppers in the general public. And flashlights have come a long way. Now, I've got a couple out here for our YouTube users. First of all, you've got those that are going to run on batteries and those that are going to be recharged. And you can basically run from $20 all the way up to $350 or $400, depending upon what you're looking for in the quality range of flashlight.
Right.
But and the rechargeables, you're going to find as low as $50, $60, and you're going to find battery flashlights that are $150. So there's no dollar value you can put on the quality. Basically, what we looked for when we decided to stock the store with them and be able to cover good for all our customers is we wanted one good that was what we call the police style flashlight or the police size flashlight. Now, we chose the Nebo because the LED patented technology with the eye in the front means that LED is going to burn very, very low light. So on a couple of batteries, this thing will shut off or run a beacon for over 200 hours. Plus, it gives you 400 lumens of light at 400 meters on the high setting, and it's got a high, medium, and low. So the low setting on that flashlight is as bright as anybody's normal D-cell flashlight.
Right.
And the high triples it. So you've got a lot of options with that type of a flashlight. You're looking at 100, 120 range, wherever you would find one of those locally. And then you can go all the way down to the little red line for $20. Well, and as you can see, we'll shine it in there where the folks will see it. I mean, for that single battery on the flashlight, throws off a heck of a beam for $20.
Right.
You just need to make sure you've got a good battery supply because that's going to, at that bright level, that's probably going to take an hour and a half. You're going to run through the battery.
Right.
And then the other ones, when you start looking at the rechargeables, like I said, from everywhere from Streamlight to 511 to one that we like here because we can sell it for $60 is a little powered LED that throws off 150 lumens. And what's nice about that is that it's rechargeable, it's shock proof, it's got an aluminum case, it's pretty well drop proof. And it's got a backup to it where you can run 3 AAAs with a little case in there if you want it rather than the rechargeable one. But I've had mine on this one 3 years. And in that 3 years, you use it on and off, recharged twice. I mean, that rechargeable battery lasts a long time. So probably the greatest thing that you could say about flashlights today is that the technology has come so far.
Right.
You know, for folks out there, just if you got $10 and you're looking for a stocking stuffer, I don't care if you're listening to us in New York or Louisiana, wherever you're going to find these, called Larry lights. Napa has them. We've got them. Ace hardware stores everywhere got them. Little tiny Larry light runs off a couple of AA batteries. It's got like 6 little lights in it, and it's magnet. You can put it on the refrigerator.
Yep.
It's got the little clip on it. You can clip it on your pocket if you've got to change the tire on your car in the middle of the night.
Right.
A whole variety of purposes for it. And you're talking about a stocking stuffer there for $10, you know?
Yep.
Anywhere. Come in a multitude of colors. Great little flashlight for the money.
Don't go to the truck stops and try to buy them because they'll charge you $20 for a $10 light.
Oh.
So
Are the Larry lights that expensive there?
in the truck stops, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. You can find them almost anywhere else.
Yeah. Darn good little light for $10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered that one pretty well, and we're going to have to take a little bit of a hiatus for a short time because I'm going to be doing some things that aren't going to allow me to come record at ABN on Sundays. You got some shows and stuff that are going to be happening.
Yep.
But right after SHOT Show, we're going to continue doing these. So I would like to ask our listeners, please, if you want to know something about prepping, if there's something you want us to cover, let us know. We've got one more topic that we haven't touched on that we're going to be looking to get some guests in and maybe talk about that special over a whole segment here coming up after SHOT Show. But coming up in February, these are going to be coming back.
Yep. And as far as what our folks that are around the Midwest, you know, our listeners, just to kind of give them a heads up, remember that the Fargo gun shows the first weekend of January. We'll probably be up in Fargo. The second weekend, I think, is Brookings, South Dakota. The third weekend is Bismarck, North Dakota. Fourth weekend is Yankton, South Dakota. And then into February, the Ramkota big show is here. The Aberdeen show is up in Aberdeen, South Dakota. So those folks who are fans of the show, if you live around the area, just keep in mind that there's a lot of activities coming up in the wintertime. You can get yourself out and pal around with other folks like-minded.
You betcha. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for listening into these. And again, we will be starting these back up in February, and keep letting us know what you want to hear. We'll get to them then. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, folks.
Awesome. All right.
This is one comfortable ass chair, I got to tell you.
I've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook.
Heating.
Like if our
Yep.
power were to go off right now and be off for a couple days.
Yep.
How am I going to keep warm?
Yeah, that's.
I've been seeing posts on Facebook where you can take like the little terracotta planters and flip like a smaller one upside down. You have to leave a gap at the bottom. The candles can get heat or can get air.
Yep, seen those.
Candle in there, and then the terracotta, and then another one over there. Does that actually work?
No. Now, here's the interesting part about it. Does it work in the sense that it radiates heat? Yeah.
Well, I know I'm not going to be able to heat a man,
Right.
but could I keep it warm